everyone. It is O&A De-Talks time once again. Neb and Muse joining you to talk about the goings-on in the O&A sphere, the O&A universe. A bit usually one-sided, and this week's isn't going to be much different than that. But big news that we should probably cover first, that at Anthony Cumia is back on Twitter, live again. Anthony's formerly verified. We've talked about Anthony's many Twitter accounts, at Compound Boss, at Relocation Boss, and the, at the time, failed attempt to get the verified page back because he said he didn't have the phone number that he used to create the page. But if you remember, he was saying, oh, you know, it's actually not that bad because I can say all this horrible stuff and it's not me. It's at Relocation Boss. It doesn't say at Anthony Cumia.
Yeah, no one will be able to track that down.
It's not like he toned down his shit when he went back to the page that actually has his name on it. He still tweets the same extremist racism crap that could easily get him in trouble. I don't know with who at this point, because he works for his own company, so it's not like he can get fired. He might get kicked off Twitter, maybe, but I don't know the likelihood of that because people don't get suspended like they used to, or get in trouble for the shit as much as they used to. We'd noticed that he had a tweet that got reported in Germany that almost got him in some trouble. The verbiage in it was dehumanizing a black man that was arrested, saying he was inhuman or something like that.
Not a speck of humanity in those eyes. Someone at lockup should
take him out or something like that. Yeah, very interesting thing for Twitter to decide is just okay to be.
Yeah, Twitter said it was okay. Germany said this is
maybe
suspicious.
not. Is it illegal in Germany? No. Is it a problem? I guess to some point, or else it wouldn't have been brought to Twitter's attention. And there's just a bunch of other horrible shit he's been tweeting. I got some of those examples. But the main thing that everyone was talking about there for a few days anyway was that he was at a diner and that he videotaped a man from across the room who everyone on Twitter, me included to a certain degree, decided kind of looks like Opie a little bit. And he just tweeted it out saying, hey, look who's here. Didn't at him or anything, just kind of left it up in the air of like, hey, if the people think it looks like him, they could make that decision for themselves, but I'm not going to say it outright.
But if you also put it out there, people are going to see it.
Yeah, I mean...
People see what they're told to be seen.
He can say what he wants when he's sitting there with Gavin trying to justify it, but Opie didn't think it was too funny, and everyone online just thought it was him, so they all flooded his Twitter and his YouTube shit being, hey, you were there, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you try to reconcile, I guess? Which, if I saw somebody sitting across the room in a diner filming me without my permission or consent, the first thing I'd want to do is walk up and patch things up and high-five them and maybe buy him a drink.
It's been so long. I miss you, bro.
The O&A fans, and I don't want to paint them all with the same broad brush here, but there's certainly enough of a chunk of the audience that deserves this. They really are sitting by after all this time, still hoping and praying for an O&A reunion. And I don't understand how you can have so little going on or have like no other interests that you would still want this show that went off the air over 10 years ago back. Like, nothing's filled that hole in your life that you still want that.
Why are some people still hanging on? And
you think it would be as good after years of them shit-talking each other? Like, what makes you think that show would be anything like you remember it?
Yeah.
Jim wouldn't be part of it. Jim still has a show with Sam, and Jim was like the glue that held it together and was like the mediator most of the time, so you wouldn't have that going on. It would likely be on Compound Media, so it still wouldn't be free. You'd still have to pay for it. There's a lot of points against it.
Yeah.
But I think it's very funny that Opie was at first saying, I think someone filmed this and then sent it to Anthony. Like, thinking that Anthony is somehow above filming a random person.
Yeah, like, he'll literally do that.
Yeah, why do you think that's something that is out of his character? So they both ended up spending an hour of their respective shows, if you want to call it that, talking about this. Opie spent an hour on it, talking to people in the chat, and shit-talking Anthony, saying he's a fucking creep for filming people if it was him, which I agree. And then Anthony spending an hour talking about the video of Opie talking about the tweet for an hour. So
God, just kiss already.
It really is the most pathetic shit, I gotta say. I gotta hit them both with that. Like, y'all really both need to put this shit behind y'all.
Yeah.
So, at Anthony Cumia is back in the saddle, really just setting Twitter ablaze, gotta say. Some tweets I have pulled out here, some examples of the brand of humor that you get following at Anthony Cumia.
Mm-hmm.
The original page is a picture of Harriet Tubman holding a rifle or a shotgun. And the caption is, "Do you guys think Harriet Tubman could have passed a background check in the 1850s Maryland?" I don't know what the joke there is.
Yeah, what's the joke?
I'm not sure. But Anthony retweeted it saying, "Dad ass dough."
Your go-to with Harriet Tubman is to fetishize her.
Yep.
Yeah, I bet you never fetishize black women ever.
No, not at all. And we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it because it's fucking horrible. The school shooting. But Anthony's response to that has been predictable for the most part.
Yeah.
And I know the people on the right don't care about being called hypocrites. Like, that just doesn't affect them at all. That's not the got ya that a lot of people on the left seem to think it is.
Yeah.
Like, you say this, but you often do the... They don't fucking care.
Yeah, they just enjoy the trolling.
Exactly, yeah. They just want a reaction at all. If they get one, that's really all they were after in the first place.
And I think a big part of their whole thing that really gets under their skin is being seen as pathetic.
Yeah.
And being seen as weak or flawed.
Not to say everyone on the left is completely squeaky clean either.
Yeah, for sure, especially because it's a fucking spectrum.
Yeah, but let's just say people like Anthony specifically.
Yeah.
Definitely not on the same level. For example, at End Wokeness posted a few pictures of the person who did the shooting, kind of like throughout their life, like 4 different pictures over time, saying, "Wokeness destroys the mind, body, and soul" is the original text.
Okay.
Which is like, alright, what the fuck ever. Anthony takes it to another level, saying, "I bet I could have fucked some sense into her."
What?
This is days after playing this role of acting like he actually gave a shit, correcting news outlets that were misgendering the shooter, because they do identify as a trans man.
Yeah.
Now just saying her, after days of tweeting out, "How dare you misgender him?" I don't know who Anthony thinks his tweets are for, or sees his tweets that, like, to be a troll, people kind of have to give a shit.
Yeah, and, like, have to be in on the joke.
If you're so inconsistent with your shit and your messaging, it's kind of hard to follow.
There was the first wave of reactionary people on the right were, let's not acknowledge the fact that it's misgendering, let's just make people think that it's a trans woman.
Yeah.
Because that fits our narrative better than utilizing a trans man as a scapegoat.
We never talk about trans men. How are we going to weaponize this?
People don't understand trans men.
Yeah,
like on the alt-right, they don't think they think only men want to become women so that they can invade spaces. We don't know how to weaponize trans men.
We need more practice on this.
All of our shit is based in misogyny.
Going back to Anthony just kind of being a nobody. Back in the days we've talked about, or at least I've talked about with my perception of it growing up, listening to the show, is that his paranoia and his passing racism was almost part of a quirky charm of a misunderstood guy.
But see, like, I think what we were talking about was that, early on in that kind of joke with anybody, including him, early on, it's like, oh yeah, it's a joke because I'm not actually racist.
It's so outrageous. It's obviously an exaggeration.
It's so outrageous. It's an exaggeration. But then at some point, it's like, no, it's not an exaggeration at all. I actually feel this way, and now that's the joke. How is that a joke? Yeah,
now it's not a joke anymore. It's not even trying to be funny. I've talked about this, that most of the video clips that actually get shared from the show are him being serious, talking about real shit.
Yeah.
So, do people even care about the show trying to be funny anymore? Do people actually want a comedy show, or do people like the Gavin McInnes type of, like, political, provocateur bullshit?
We've talked about that too, where it's like, a comedy, is it really funny? Why are, like, at, like, Trump rallies and stuff?
Yeah,
when he's saying shit.
Yeah.
Is it really funny, or are you just laughing because you're, what were we thinking, uncomfortable or validated? is just because someone's laughing doesn't mean it's funny.
I forget which episode that was, but we actually delved pretty into what, like, not defining comedy, but just basically saying just because people are laughing does not mean it's inherently funny or comedy. A lot of it is, wow, this is going to get such a reaction out of the left, and then when the left really doesn't respond, then they have to find something else.
Yeah, it's like a playground where there's a bunch of bullies, and then there's one kid that's the target of the bully, or like one group, and the bullies are like, yeah, stinky face, feet go whir, and boo 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 boo, and then just pointing at the kid, and everyone's just like, ha 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 ha, we're in on this, what we think, this is a joke, right? Like, because that didn't make any sense.
Right.
Like, you just made sounds and said things that didn't make sense, but we're laughing because we're all in on it together. And that's sort of what it feels like, where it's like, there's no actual sense about it.
And yet they'll say that the left doesn't understand comedy and that they're too sensitive, and it's just a back and forth. Anthony even himself says, because his Twitter accounts up to this point haven't had his name on it, that he knows he benefits from being an anonymous figure.
Right. And, like most of the alt-right. And
I think something that our show can do is to make people aware of him as a person. There are times where people will show up on his show or on his channel, his, like, website, and it's like, what the fuck are they doing palling around with an open white supremacist?
Yeah.
And I think Anthony and these people benefit from people just not knowing who he is.
Well, yeah, I think that, that's sort of how, like, white supremacists sort of weasel their way into spaces.
But then they'll go out of their way to try to be super out in the open and outspoken and well-known. Like, for a lot of people, that's the goal. Like, Gavin is persona non grata, but I don't think he's beyond the point of caring. Yeah. And people like Steven Crowder want as many viewers and listeners as possible. Like, he wants, like, a lot of people want to be fucking megastars. They want money. They want notoriety.
Yeah, they want the attention.
Yeah. I don't think Anthony wants the attention because he knows he can then play up the, hey, this is just a streaming site. People don't know. That's why oftentimes back in the day when O&A would try to get guests on their show, like authors of books or whatever, they would have their phone screeners call them up saying, hey, do you want to be on the Greg and Tony show? Because if you say, do you want to come on the Opie and Anthony show? Oh, you mean the Sex for Sam people? You mean the Mayor is Dead people? You mean all the terrible things?
Yeah, let me look these people up.
Yeah, it's like Greg and Tony. Isn't it going to be suspicious when they can't find anything either? Yeah. Like, why would you come on a show with no social media or internet presence either? Like, that's just as weird. But, I want us to be able to take this and make people aware of, hey, if you see people going on the fucking Anthony Cumia show, maybe ask them why they're doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe say, hey, that's a fucking weird place for you to go. What were they talking about?
Yeah, why did he want you on?
They benefit, exactly. They benefit from being behind a paywall so not everybody can see what they were talking about, but people like Ian Halperin, who is a documentary filmmaker, and he made a documentary about Kurt Cobain. I don't know if it's good or not. People can let me know. On Twitter, he specifically, in his bio, refers to himself as an NFT curator also. Like, he's the #1 best-selling author, a documentary filmmaker, award-winning, but now he just spends a lot of time with NFT bullshit.
That's not too surprising, honestly.
No. But when you look at his look at who he's following on Twitter, he's only following 49 people.
Oh, no.
A lot of them are rando NFT creators, Compound Media, and Anthony Cumia, and a couple other hangers-on. Do you think your average person who might know or follow Ian Halperin knows that that's problematic or would care if they knew? Like, they benefit from Anthony being not a household name.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, this is just another place I can go, another audience I can promote my shit to. Maybe if the mainstream audience doesn't want me, or mainstream media doesn't give a shit about me, I can always fall back and go on this channel, and no one's going to criticize me for it. And I think to a degree, and this is something Opie makes fun of with Jim, is that a lot of people just care about money at the end of the day.
Especially if you're on the far right.
Yeah, like, you've given up on caring about a reputation.
You'll throw your whole following, your whole, like, cult following under the bus if it means getting more money. I argue you will pretend that you're more... Well, this is what the fucking Republicans do every few years. They'll fall back and pretend that their platform is more moderate than right, because they realized, oh, we pushed the envelope a little too far. And, like, pushing the envelope, like, especially with Anthony, you know, like, you can't keep pushing it. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So, like, with the far right and, like, Republicans, which a lot of the far right like to hunker under, you'll see them be like, oh, yeah. For years now, we were like, yeah, push. But now we're like, no. We've got some more. They'll choose and handpick more moderate-seeming people who don't have a very obvious history of being, like, far right. So it's, like, easier to get the votes and stay in without showing their hand as much.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, especially if you're a comedian, too, you can always fall back on, like, cancel culture, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to cancel me, woke people, and there you already found your audience that you can't offend. They're inherently unoffendable.
Unoffendable. But they're not. They're also...
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
they're unoffendable by things he might say. Anthony is a safe bet. You know he's not going to go and defend minorities. Something you might actually be offended by.
Yeah. Just people existing offends some of those folks.
Yeah.
So, and that's the whole fucking... Calm down, y'all.
But one author he had on his show, he wrote a book called, like, Taking the White Pill. But it sounds, on its face, more optimistic than you would assume with the right-wing people, especially because black pill just kind of seems to be what ends up happening to people who are red-pilled long enough.
Yeah.
You just lose all faith and lose all hope. That why the fuck would Anthony be having this author on his page talking about the white pill? Well, I mean, if you look at his Twitter, though, he's, like, just as racist and just as terrible as anybody else that would be on the show. Yeah, and that makes
sense that he'd be writing a book that seems to be more hopeful or altruistic or something than it actually is, because I wonder just, like, how many dog whistles are in there that, like...
You might also even see the problem, like, being blackpilled as being a problem of the right wing and maybe trying to fix that. Like, we can't use people who are that far gone.
If you're totally hopeless, then why would you think that having a master race would be worth of anything?
Exactly, yeah. It's like, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, you, like, if, like, on both sides, when the group loses hope is when shit gets harder for that group.
Yeah, like, you need to keep fighting, or, you know, complacency just, you know, screws you over.
Yeah.
So, you can't be super nihilistic or whatever in that way, or else you're going to lose momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So, Anthony's talking to this guy, and this is the only video I brought from this appearance. There's another one online where they're just talking about this guy who I guess is also an aspiring comedian. I'd love to see his shit. I bet it's fucking terrible.
Mm-hmm.
That he said he was doing a gig with Nick DiPaolo, who, for those who know Nick DiPaolo, was a big guest on the O&A show back in the day. He's obnoxious, racist New Yorker guy. And also Roseanne.
Oh,
so
great.
This guy is saying, like, wow, I'm sitting there like, what am I doing here with all these huge names? When realistically, it's like, you're in a room full of has-beens.
Yeah.
Like, if you're an up-and-coming wrestler and you're at a convention with a whole bunch of dudes from the 80s who haven't wrestled in, like, 30 years, and, like, you're not looking around being like, wow, how the fuck did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
It's more or less like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Like, oh no, how did I get here?
Exactly, yeah, it's more of a rock-bottom moment than anything. And he's talking about how funny Roseanne is, and Anthony is just going along with it, even though I bet Anthony doesn't really think Roseanne is funny, but he has to act like she is because the guest thinks so.
It's sort of like when you're in high school and someone is like, oh my god, yeah, let's be friends with that person.
Oh, yeah.
Let's be friends with that person. Hey, come over here. Yeah, let's be friends.
And again, it's a joke to everybody else because they're in on it.
Exactly, and I feel like that's sort of Roseanne.
First, the whole gimmick was, I'm playing up basically What Got Married with Children and The Simpsons popular, where they're shows that are they're centered around your average nuclear family,
right?
But it's not the squeaky clean Brady Bunch type family that you've seen on TV for years. They're actually showing dysfunction. They're showing how your average family might actually act, where they're not all, you know, the family portrait that everyone likes to pretend they are. that she would go on
Yeah.
stage and be like, yeah, I'm a mom, but I think my kids are fucking annoying, you know? I'm not going to do all the housework. I'm not I'm not the stereotypical housewife. And people thought that was really funny because she was speaking for a group of women who, to that point, might not have had a spokesperson with a fucking megaphone.
Yeah, that sounds pretty feminist to me.
At the time, it kind of was.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you push back against the gender role of being a woman or a wife, that's feminist. Like,
and I think that's why people in the 90s were not a fan of Roseanne as a stand-up comedian, but the people that did kind of did see her as more of a feminist icon.
yeah, and then I guess I don't know at what point she became outspoken in terms of being hateful.
That was over the past few years in the rise
Just
of
a
Trump.
few years?
Yeah.
I thought it was before that.
No,
time is weird.
Everybody was kind of surprised
I'm surprised.
when she just all of a sudden just started being super racist
Oh, okay.
and for
That's
Trump.
right. She said,
She called a minority like an ape or a monkey on Twitter, and
Okay.
she got suspended.
and then
She
they're like,
became-
"Come on over. You can sit with us now." Okay,
Yeah,
I
that's
see.
when everybody invited her over, being like, "Hey, look, we got one of them. This is really gonna piss them off."
Yeah,
But-
because she did seem like she could be, but obviously she wasn't.
Yeah, no, it's like if you're capable of that,
Yeah, if it's that easy for you to tweet that,
yeah,
you've got other stuff going on.
yeah. I mean, let our expose into Anthony be proof of that.
Yeah.
Of how, I don't understand this. I really want to say this in Opie live stream, especially when Opie says something like, "I didn't know Anthony was as racist as he ended up being." I've heard him say this so many times. It's like, bro, the literal first time you ever saw Anthony, he was in blackface.
Yeah.
You can't, how would you not realize this?
It's white people are very good. We're very good at ignoring things.
Oh yeah, turning a blind eye,
Yeah.
acting like things are going great
And we
when they're clearly
downplay
not.
things, and then suddenly it'll click with us once we've been educated or something. It'll click with us and be like, "Oh my God, it's everywhere now."
Yeah.
Like you see it so much. Why you really need to be educated on like race and racism and how infiltrates and white supremacy and stuff like that, because you really cannot see it if you don't know how to see it.
Yeah, if you don't get the dog whistles, you don't get the signs, then
Yeah.
So I guess that's also why when a celebrity all of a sudden does wake up to shit and be like, "Oh my God, it literally is everywhere," people on the right will be like, "Oh, look who's gone fucking crazy. Look."
Yeah,
because it's all at
gaslighting.
once.
Yeah.
Because you haven't said this shit for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But then, then people could use the exact same argument about people like Roseanne. Of like, what she must have been, something to some it's something that can be weaponized both ways.
Yeah.
But with Roseanne, and I do want to have people go listen to the episode of Knowledge Fight where they talk about the episode where Roseanne went on Alex Jones's show and talked for a few hours about shit and how she clearly didn't understand the kind of person Alex Jones really was. Like, all she knew was that, there's a couple clips where he'll, break down and cry and pray on air, so she thought he was, this, super religious guy.
Oh, God.
So the first thing she tries to do is, lead him in a prayer and then have him pray in front of her.
What the fuck?
And because he's not in super performative mode, he, can't do it on command. It's really hard to listen to. It's really embarrassing.
God.
So they're going back and forth trying to use each other for their own goal at the moment until Roseanne starts talking about how she's Jewish, she was growing up, and how she heard about the Holocaust for the first time and how it really fucked her up, and she's breaking down and crying, and Dan and Jordan point out that you're on a show that has literal Nazi Holocaust deniers.
Yeah.
And you're talking to this guy who you think cares, you think is actually going to go along with this thing, is actually going to feel bad for the childhood trauma you endured where you were
Right.
terrified that someone in your family was saying it could happen again, and it's terrifying because you don't know. And then Alex tries to fake cry because he can't be outdone. He has to talk about something fake and traumatic to try to
Fuck.
get on her sad level. It's terrible. it's really manipulative and awful. But she definitely does seem like someone who got fucking lost, and it's sad.
And that's what they want. They want, like, the ones who have lost all... See, Black Pill works in... I feel that Black Pill works in favor of the alt-right because when you hit rock bottom, whether it be existentially or addiction or abuse, when you hit rock bottom, people can guide you anywhere.
That is true.
Whoever is there to reach out to help you, that can very easily become your new family, your new ideology. You're going through life on a roller coaster of like, okay, I'm going up, I'm living my life, and then, oh, fuck, nihilism, black pill, and then you're hitting rock bottom, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can find meaning again in a cult, in a dangerous ideology, in
I
all
think
this stuff.
that's where Anthony went wrong too. Like, I seriously think Anthony... I mean, it doesn't help that he was raised in a super racist environment. Like, that wasn't good to prime him to begin with. Mm-hmm. It sounds like his dad and mom were super racist around him at an early age, so that's no good. But also, you can see over time him just slipping further and further into conspiracy, into the paranoia, because he didn't have anyone around him to ensure him that things weren't nearly as bad as he thought they were.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go on a limb and also say that people in the black pill could be manipulated to be the super violent wing, the expendable wing. They're so depressed they might actually go and harm minorities that we can't do directly, and then we can write them off as, you know, being crazy.
Yeah.
After we've poisoned their minds with enough rhetoric and enough conspiracy shit that they carry out what we would like to do secretly, that they do, maybe take a few people out, and then we can secretly applaud it behind the scenes.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if a majority of, like, the school shooters and mass shooters were linked in a way that's less obvious to the alt-right.
A lot of them seem to be fans of, like, Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, so I mean, they've had their minds poisoned.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go ahead and say this, too, because I don't really know how to tweet this out, but if anyone is going to try to talk shit about what happened in Tennessee, I'll agree. It's fucking terrible. I'm not going to, like, you know, condone it or anything. But I will say, kind of like what we've been talking about here, that I personally think community probably could have prevented that.
Yeah.
To have a support system and people around you to talk to about things. I know the person's manifesto, as of the time we're recording this, has not been revealed. Oh, okay. So the motives aren't explicitly known. A lot of people are just speculating yet. But I can assume, living in Tennessee, that it might be a reaction to a lot of the anti-trans legislation going on.
Yeah, and isolation mixed with hopelessness is a perfect storm for someone doing irrational things. If you look at mothers who are single mothers and they're going through postpartum depression and they don't have anyone to lean on and they'd like fucking drive their kids into the ocean.
Right.
They love their kids.
Yeah.
They fucking love their kids. And they do that.
Yeah.
I believe that they love their kids.
Yeah.
And they love their kids so much that something in their head is like, this world is terrible. You don't need to experience how terrible this world is.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, it could very well just been like that shooting. It could have very well have just been like someone having, you know, been black-pilled and led to think that, hey, you need to do this.
And I'm a big proponent of community, being as someone who needs help sometimes and needs, like, validation from people, that I'll reach out to other trans people and non-binary people for help. And I tweeted about it yesterday because you see people like Caitlyn Jenner, who is, like, so outspoken against other trans people and queer people.
Yeah.
That you can tell rich people never had a need for community because they're so rich that they don't need the support and, like, from other people, that they just figured that they could just handle shit on their own.
Yeah, the community is other rich people at that
so
point.
They become so disconnected that they just end up hating their own, what would be community.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really important, y'all. That's all I'm going to say.
If you look at any minority group and then you look at a super wealthy example of that person, of that group, it's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah. So this dude, who I didn't even mention it about why I even brought up Roseanne in the first place. was that he said that he saw a meme online saying, who in 2023 could have predicted that Roseanne Barr would be hotter than Madonna? And they put two pictures side by side of Roseanne on a clean-cut day, looking almost like an older Martha Stewart, next to like a super expressionalized, made-up Madonna, anything the fucking right hate anyway, individuality, what have you. And Anthony having to act like he agrees, like he would fucking smash Roseanne, which is so fucking embarrassing and bullshit to have to act like this.
We all know his types.
Yeah, I mean, he tweets about it all the time. It's super skinny, like stereotypical 90s model types. White model types. Like, yeah, young, super skinny. Even if he'll, like, talk about, like, oh, meat on the bones, I don't believe that. Every time he tweets about someone, that does not reflect that taste at all. Super skinny, blonde Roseanne. Yeah,
no, Roseanne really is like an antithesis. She plays the role of, wow, yeah, you're just so cool. You can be with one of us. You can hang out with us. Like, you're just one of the guys. You're one of us. But at the same time, act as representation to the women in society who are not conventionally attractive and who are loud and opinionated.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So, like, I can be a Karen that looks like that, because she's just a Karen.
Yeah, at this point.
Like, that's all she really is. She's just, like, harping on about, like, minorities and... for what?
And it's funny, like, I've heard Anthony talk about, like, his hate for fake radio and how he just wants to be real these days. And that is true until he's around someone who has a slightly differing opinion that he wants on his show really bad, and he'll just bullshit his way through the interview. Like, I'm really sure he just wants Roseanne on the show, too. Like, when everybody was clamoring for Kanye, he wanted Kanye on the show so fucking bad, but again, on that turn, nobody knows who the fuck you are, and that does work to your detriment, because why would Kanye want to be on a show if a guy has no idea who the fuck he is?
Yeah.
So here they're talking about his book. They're talking about his white pill book. Well, the guy actually asks him, do you identify as being black-pilled? And Anthony agrees.
You have a book, The White Pill, A Tale of Good and Evil. Now, I've had discussions with you about the whole pill thing. And we all know the red pill and the blue pill. That's obvious from the Matrix and whatnot.
It's not obvious. You fucking convoluted it into something completely different, but okay.
Yeah, it's like, you can act like you get it, but you've just taken it and reappropriated it to mean something else.
You didn't get the movie at all.
But these different color pills, especially black and white, they get a little confusing. I was always under the impression that the black pill was somebody that was just kind of a nihilist. Like everything is fucked. There's no getting better. We're just going to have to live this out in some dystopian fucking future because we're fucked. Is that a good interpretation of the black pill?
I wish more alt-right people were more nihilistic.
Yeah.
Because right now they have a little too much hope.
That is true.
They have a little too much hope for their fucking racist future society.
A lot of them are clinging to the possibility, but yeah, like, ultimately, like, at the end of the day, you look at the majority of people don't agree with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, things are only progressing because you do actually have some power, but if you didn't have that power, like, that's just going away real quick.
I wouldn't use the word nihilist specifically because that's not what nihilism is, but yes, the definition...
What is nihilism then?
Nihilism is someone who doesn't think values are real and think life is inherently meaningless. So it could be a positive or negative thing.
It could be a positive or negative thing.
Yeah, no. No, nihilism... I'm sure there's going to be somebody in the comments just being like, nihilism it could be positive or negative. I argue that nihilism, because nihilism is linked to the thought that there is no meaning to life.
Yeah.
And you, in a very broad sense of the word, you could say, oh my gosh, I'm free to do anything.
Right.
But point to me a nihilist who feels that way.
Yeah.
Nihilism almost always, at least in the current context of society, because you can't just do anything, means that there is no meaning to life except what we are allowed to do under capitalism. There is no values have no meaning except for whatever game you're playing in your job or your family or your society. So, like, it's basically, I have no power in life because the governments that we live within are all more powerful than we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you fall under nihilism, I argue that you will become hopeless.
Yeah.
Because you can't pretend that you're just unless you just live in the woods and you have a cabin and you're off the grid. That is the only way nihilism can be hopeful.
Yeah.
Because you can do whatever you want. You can sleep for 5 days and no one's gonna fucking bat an eye. You can, like, burn a tree down and, like, make art that you want to make. You can fucking kill all the animals near you and eat them all and make them into cool whatevers. And it's just like, yeah, because there's no society or government preventing you from doing those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, within the framework of the current societal systems we have, nihilism is almost always bound to be hopeless.
This clip isn't very helpful in promoting the book.
Yeah.
Whoever uploaded it doesn't give a fuck about that, or else they would have uploaded it in full. This is really just about Anthony's discussion about it. Because I have no idea what he's trying to push or sell with this white pill book.
It just sounds like a lot of other self-help books that are trying to sell you something.
I have the description on Amazon.
Yeah.
The Russian Revolution was as red as blood. Did he write this?
Oh, God.
This is Michael Malice, by the way.
This sounds like a middle school's essay.
Well, to be fair, I don't think this is a help book at all. I mean, it's specifically called A Tale of Good and Evil. I think this is just a story.
Is it an allegory?
I'm guessing so.
An allegory that anchors a cult?
The Bolsheviks promised that they were building a new society, a workers' paradise that would change the history of mankind itself. What they ended up constructing was the largest prison that the world had ever seen, a union of Soviet Socialist Republic that spanned half the globe. So already...
So it's just an anti-communist propaganda thing?
Yeah. It was a country where people's lives meant nothing, less than nothing, and they knew it. But no matter what atrocity the Soviets... See, I mean, almost slipped up there. The Soviets committed... The secret police, the torture camps, the show trials, the labor camps, the mass starvation. There was always someone in the West rushing to justify their bloodshed. For decades, it seemed perfectly obvious that the USSR wasn't going anywhere, until it vanished from the face of the earth gradually, and then suddenly.
That's not how vanishing works.
This is the story of the rise and fall of that evil empire and why it is so important for the good to never give up hope. This is the white pill. So, I'm looking at the cover, right? And it's got pictures of Ayn Rand and like Margaret Thatcher, and I guess just a bunch of like proto-fascist people.
Yeah.
And how they worked to take down the Soviet Empire.
So you want to be the next Margaret Thatcher. You want to be the next Ayn Rand.
Yeah, that's the white pill. That's the hope that he's trying to offer. That
the hope is that what it sounds like is y'all quiet down.
Yeah, it's like
everyone out here is saying the quiet part loud.
Yeah.
Y'all need to if we want to fight the rise of communism, which is inevitable in late stage capitalism, y'all need to simmer down.
Yeah.
You're showing your hand. You're showing all of our hand right now.
He's also putting hope in like imperialism.
Well, yeah.
Because the whole point of giving us hope is the USSR was able to be taken down. Are you saying that the American rise of like progressives is the same thing that needs to be squashed? Because you're being very subtle. But we can all read through it.
Yeah, I think the hope that they're selling is like, okay, the reason that fascism is rising in the sense of loudness, in my opinion, is like a cornered animal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that it's a mix of being emboldened by Trump, but Trump was also a reaction to the rise of progressivism.
Yeah.
And, people backing Bernie Sanders and the real chance that Bernie Sanders had, even for the modicum of progressive ideas that he had. He's not the most progressive person in the world.
No.
But it's sort of like a reaction to that, and everyone's like, oh, fuck, oh, wokeness, progressives, socialism,
And we gotta label that as fascism, even though progressivism doesn't have any inherent traits of fascism, and theirs is completely...
It's just showing your hand.
Yeah.
It's just like, we think progress is fascism because we want to conserve what's already going on, which is fascism.
I got a review. While this is a relatively short book, it did give me a while. It did take me a while to read because there is so much backstory to historical events of which I am well aware, yet did not know this depth of detail.
It's almost as if like there's probably lies and propaganda.
It's like, wow, this, like, I didn't know about this.
I didn't know they did that. I thought it was the opposite, actually.
Funny. I had to look up to see the faces of the people referred to by the author and learn even more details. This is a fantastic book for anyone.
That's a bot review.
I would especially buy it for teens as well and give it a background, as it gives a background to events from the Russian Revolution all to the end of the fall of the Berlin Wall. That makes sense. This made me see that both our government and the Russian government are both using Cold War tactics to justify their current wars. Our government is using baby boomer era propaganda and the old fear of the spread of communism to justify spending more money on weapons to Ukraine. The Russians
Oh my god. They're genuinely... It's just... this book would not make any sense if there was a Republican in office.
No, not at all. This... Oh my god. This is so...
How many reviews are there? Like 7?
No, there's like... Well, ratings, there are 670 ratings.
No, how many written reviews are there? Does it say? I don't know if it says that.
I don't know about reviews. It just says number of ratings. It has an 87% 5-star rating.
Yeah,
out of 670 global ratings.
People like to, So if this person is well known before having written this book, they probably have like a fucking mailing list that they're like, oh my god, please go write a review about my book. I'll give you a free book.
Yeah, all of this seems to be just an anti-communist thing.
That's all. Yeah, that's all it is. It's misinformation still, obviously, and just anti-communist.
Yeah.
Which, you know what anti-communism is, if you want to shorten that. It's fascism.
Yeah.
I just think it's so funny. Like, they're trying to convince people by calling it white pill that, hey. You know, fascism is pretty cool, actually. Without saying it, anti-communism is pretty cool, guys.
But the title is misleading.
The title is just playing off of... It's playing off of a buzzword.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if that was why he was invited on, or if they knew the details of the book, because the conversation, I don't know if the conversation really reflects what the book is about, now that I've actually read it, but we can go ahead and listen to it and see what they talk about here.
And now the white pill, I would assume, is the exact opposite, where,
No,
what, you just...
the exact opposite.
Okay, see, that doesn't make much sense then, you would think. What is
So
being white-pilled?
The white pill is hope. So if the black pill is, it's certain that the bad guys will win. The white pill is, it's not at all certain that the bad guys will win.
If one is hopelessness, the other one is hope. It's not the exact opposite.
No.
No.
I don't want you to think that the issue is as simple as black and white.
It's not a black and white issue. It's a black pill and a white pill issue.
See, I know you're pretty black-pilled in your perspective.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that being in New York feeds into that. And how could it not? Because
Certainly
your
does.
environment very much affects your perspective.
Anthony's expression just looks like he's been frowning and squinting for the past 50 years. Just...
I mean, judging from how he reacts on Twitter, he never really takes joy in anything.
It looks like he's in denial that he needs glasses, too.
I could see that. I mean, we could always go back to episode 10, when Ron was just suggesting that Anthony do something that, like, explores...
Brings him joy.
Yeah, things that actually make him happy.
Yeah.
But Anthony's decided no.
Well, yeah, it's like a fucking feedback loop with nihilism, where you're like, what's the point? It's like depression, but on an existential level, from my perspective, because I went through a very nihilistic phase, and I feel like nihilism is a natural phase to go through, especially within the society we live in, until you find your voice and you find what power you do have in society and how you can help society, and then you're like, maybe I do have values. Maybe values that I have do exist and are real for me.
I want to unpack what Michael says here. where he says living in New York
Yeah.
can embolden being nihilistic and feeling the way you do. And I'm trying to understand what he means by that. Like, if I think about New York, and
What's
I think
that
about
context he's referring to?
yeah, what he's talking about here specifically by not mentioning it by name is the things that Anthony complains about. If you look at the demographic and you look at how people generally vote in that state,
Yeah.
Anthony is a clear minority.
Yeah.
So is that what he's getting at? That being in a minority in this area can lead to being nihilistic? And if that's the case,
Yeah.
then how could you not apply that to actual minorities who are seriously oppressed?
Yeah, and that's why I think there is a link to being more privileged and also being nihilistic, because you look at the people who are the most disenfranchised, and I don't feel that they are nihilistic.
Not often, no.
They can
at least
feel
not the majority.
hopeless
Right.
without being nihilistic, because so many marginalized groups and minority groups, they still have values that they hold very strongly to.
Right.
And they know what's right and wrong in their world. But at the same time, they feel hopeless about it because they're so disenfranchised that what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
So, like, I really feel that it's a very special... I feel like nihilism is especially prominent against within privileged communities, because, oh, boo-hoo, you're the most fucking privileged sect of society, and oh no, you have to live in New York, and oh no, you're technically a minority in New York because of how privileged you are,
Yeah.
and how you are choosing to view the world.
It's like how Alex Jones says that he lives in occupied Austin, Texas, because he's clearly not like the typical keep Austin weird type.
Yeah.
You know, that he's
I'm
like,
a minority now.
yeah, I'm a prisoner in this environment because people don't agree with me, but, you know, they're all waking up, which is all just lies and bullshit.
You know, within my current framework of how I'm viewing nihilism is good. I want privileged people to feel hopeless.
Yeah.
Why should they feel hope and be the most privileged?
Yeah.
Hope is a privilege.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and I'm formulating this as I talk, so it could very easily break back down and be like, wait, no, that's a bad idea.
It's all good.
But, like, it really feels like if the biggest hurdle for privileged people is nihilism, then good. Because nihilism, if that theory holds any water, nihilism then prevents the privileged people from taking even more. Like, think of the people who are super privileged who aren't nihilistic. Like Bill Gates. I imagine he's not super nihilistic.
I imagine Elon Musk probably is.
Elon Musk definitely seems like a brick through the window kind of
Yeah.
thinker, and take all the chances because nothing really matters. Burn it all down because nothing really matters.
Yeah, maybe someone like Jeff Bezos probably doesn't fall into that.
Zuckerberg seems like he could be a nihilist.
Well, I would say his following probably is. I don't know
Yeah.
if he reflects that fan base specifically. He's never rubbed me that way specifically.
Well, I mean, like within capitalism, the biggest thing that people pursue is rising within the classes, which
Yeah.
is extremely hard and nigh impossible for people. So when you don't have to do that, what else do you have to live for?
Yeah, that's true.
If you're already at the top,
Yeah. Yeah, if you're born into money and
Yeah.
you don't have to fight for it, like someone like Elon
Yeah.
specifically, like, then yeah, you don't really have
Yeah.
to work for it.
you literally don't have to work for anything. Anything you work for is just a cherry on top. This is actually coming off as almost like a pro-capitalist argument, where it's like, if you don't have anything to fight for or like aim for upward, then like you don't have a reason to live. But that's not what I'm saying. Hope is something that aligns with values. To be hopeful sort of implies that there are values worth maintaining in life. there is a worth to life kind of thing. And I feel that even outside of a capitalistic structure, you would still have people who are more privileged, especially after capitalism has fallen. Like, assuming we're not living within a vacuum, you know, you would still have privilege even after the fall of capitalism.
Right.
Because of just, you know, societal brainwashing and shit like that.
Just fighting for your life to be better does not inherently mean you're fighting for more money.
Yeah.
Is the thing. Like, that's something you choose.
Yeah.
And if you're fighting for more money for power, that's very different than fighting for more money to be able to afford surgeries.
Yeah.
Or being able to just afford some sort of security.
Yeah.
Like, living up to a certain point, I think, is reasonable. Working and living to make more money does not inherently make you a capitalist.
Yeah.
When things just are shitty and you need them to be better in different ways. But if you're working for money to gain more power, that's very different.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take this point, because we've been going for about an hour and 15, that I have a whole episode prepared of XM stuff.
XM stuff?
I'm going to keep that for the next episode.
Okay.
I think this video alone should be the episode, because there's still like 7 minutes left in this video.
Yeah.
And I think it's giving us plenty to talk about.
Yeah, and we want to watch WrestleMania.
We do want to catch WrestleMania night one. And this just means I have less prep work to do for the next episode.
There you go.
I already got one ready to go.
Yeah.
But I don't see how, and I know you're going to make a joke about this, but with all seriousness, you can't look at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and John Fetterman and be like, all right, it's a wrap. These people are going to get whatever they want. We don't have a chance. I mean, that's crazy to me.
Is it though?
Yes.
They have so far. Fetterman, we don't even know if this guy's dead or alive, and he's still holding the office.
Whether or not this book is good,
I imagine it's not. I don't think it could be.
Hitting a huge audience. The point of that book, like I said, is to give hope to the group that reads it. And the group that's going to read it is alt-right people who are either black-pilled or identify with being black-pilled. You don't see that much on the far right.
Yeah.
Which is good. I'm glad that they don't have a lot of people trying to bolster hope within the community.
Yeah.
I don't want them hopeful.
No.
What are they hoping for?
Yeah.
The fall of certain groups of people?
That's all I could think about. Yeah.
Fuck that.
Because you can't gain power in a fascist environment, a fascist government, without the fall of minorities.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are holding you back. They're the ones holding back your progress. So you can't gain progress without taking people out.
Yeah.
So with Michael Malice, and I don't know if he's just trying to specifically target Anthony's fears, or if these are his own fears that are kind of expressed in the book by saying you can't look at people like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Fetterman as having power and thinking it's a wrap. And Anthony's like, can I not though? It seems like they do have all the power. And even as someone like, we're living in this country.
Yeah.
We see Joe. Do you think Joe Biden and Kamala? No. Do we think they actually have, like, they're fighting against so much like other forces that how can they not see that?
And even if they did have all the power, they're not going to be pushing for the things that we want.
Even if they had complete control of the House and the Senate, they did at one point.
Yeah.
And they didn't do shit with it.
Yeah.
What are you worried about?
Yeah, they don't. It's like, does the far right think that we're under the illusion that Biden is working for us?
They must.
And
be.
by us, I mean like the far left.
And with Anthony talking about, we don't even know if Fetterman's alive. We haven't seen him because he went away to fucking treat his depression, and he already says he's heading back. Like, again, what power do you think he has? Why are you focusing in on this dude? Anthony is obsessed with Fetterman because Fetterman is willing to actually be vulnerable and say, hey, I have, like, depression.
Yeah.
And people are saying, oh, well, that disqualifies him. He shouldn't be able to have power because, like, as if nobody else does. And they're just not checking the issues they have.
I'm not going to say how, because, you know, I'm not trying to advocate for anything one way or another. But imagine if there was an American Revolution that dismantled the American government.
Mm-hmm.
And how dumbfounded the far right would be. Sure, the January 6th insurrection happened. It wasn't to dismantle the government.
No.
The government works very well for the alt-right.
Yeah, it was to put a different president in office.
Yeah.
It was to still further American government, just with a different president.
And it also felt like an attempt to make the far right seem so much further from the Republicans in office.
They have been trying to distance themselves. The alt-right is, the new right.
But it's like Cerberus. It's like it's grown a new head. Like the Republican Party has grown a new head, and it is the alt-right.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just pretend that they don't exist and that they're not a like fucking thriving group of people that actually have power now.
Yeah, as if far-right candidates aren't in the Senate or in the Congress. Like, they are being elected.
Yeah.
But Anthony's been harping on this, they're gonna take our guns bullshit, since before Obama was in office, listening back to XM. And
honestly, knowing more about what I do about left and right, and just like having thought a bit more about the concept of guns, it makes sense that the moderate to right people in power would want to take guns away from the people.
Yeah.
Because they realize that it's not just their constituency that has the guns.
Mm-hmm.
People on the left have guns, people on the right have guns, people in the middle have guns, and if we're all fighting against each other, it makes sense that people would want guns to protect themselves against those people.
I wasn't going to say, I didn't mention it before, but talking about how people just don't care about being called hypocrites.
Yeah.
Anthony, who, if nothing else, for decades, has been the biggest Second Amendment gun collector, gun advocate I could think of, is now all of a sudden, after the school shooting, now trying to say that trans people shouldn't have access to
So
this
what,
thing.
they want a very specific kind of gun control?
Suddenly, all of a sudden, and Anthony's not alone in this, people who actually have power too, are all of a sudden saying, if you're trans, but you're not on hormone therapy, you're unstable and shouldn't have access to a gun. They're now trying to break it down of criteria within medicine in groups of people that qualify you. And Anthony we've had this conversation. Who does Anthony think have guns? And I honestly think everyone, not anymore.
Yeah.
Up to this point, Anthony's been talking about we need guns for protection from minorities.
Right. We all know that people who cannot pass background checks can still get guns.
Yeah. And
there are other ways to get guns.
Cis, right-wing terrorists who have committed school shootings and whatnot have got guns through illegal loopholes. Now, all of a sudden, that it was a Christian school and that it was a trans person.
It just feels so oddly perfect for the right.
Absolutely. Which is why I fucking hate the person that did it. Like, you fucking made it so much goddamn harder for us now, and you have no idea what you did.
And conspiracy, my brain sometimes goes to conspiracies.
That it could have possibly, it could, have possibly been someone posing as a trans person.
I mean, let's face it, what criteria is required to be trans? And identifying as trans.
Like, we're all going through this in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that a lot of people are closeted.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it is a little something to think about that nobody this person knew they were trans. Family did not. Friends did not. They identified a specific way around everybody else.
What profile had him?
I think a LinkedIn.
So
because we don't want to fall into the to like a Sandy Hook type thing.
Yeah, because
falling into the same Alex Jones bullshit.
Like, the only thing, and this comes from the anger. This is coming from anger. Me totally focusing on the who did it rather than the victims.
Absolutely.
This is all rooted in anger, and I totally acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And none of those people deserve to die, and none of those people deserved to witness any of the terror that they witnessed. And the person who did it, no matter what the situation is a terrible person for having done it and deserves to be dead.
Right.
That being said, there are a lot of things that can be manipulated to... Because, okay, let's think about it historically. How often in the 30s and 40s might have there been Jewish people portrayed to look like XYZ predators?
Right. Yeah.
I want to look into this because I do not have any sources on any of this, but I feel like it's just a part of the play. It's part of to have someone that fascists can be like, hey, proof they're evil. This one person is a monolith for this whole community.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if that were the case. However, predators and murderers and terrible people exist in every community.
Right.
The trans community is not exempt from abusers, rapists, murderers, and et cetera, et cetera. So it is extremely conflicting to have the one thought of like, that there's definitely a possibility that this person was genuinely trans.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, there's definitely a possibility that this was a plant. From what I can tell, at this point, we will never know.
Yeah.
We just have to... I feel as long as you're willing to acknowledge that terrible people exist in every community, then I feel that it's fair to also be a little speculative and be like, and skeptical, like, timing is a little too perfect.
I think it's
all the context is a little too perfect.
I think it's different what we're doing, saying the right might have done this to further harm a group of people, than someone like Alex Jones saying someone went into a school and shot up a school to get guns taken away. Like, protecting a Second Amendment compared to protecting a minority group of people is not the same thing.
That minority group of people has had nearly 500 or 600 legislative acts forced against us within the past
few months.
Like 4 months.
I will say this just because I had an idea and I don't want to forget it. I think it's very interesting how whenever we see a school shooting, we always hear about things they had online, things they were fans of, things that could have possibly been inspiring this person to carry out this action. I don't know dick about this shooter.
Yeah. Is this even a productive conversation?
I'm curious to see how much further we need to go down this, yeah.
Because I guess the point of the conversation is just the outrage.
Oh, sure.
That...
even outside of this show, we have not really discussed this.
If
this is the first time we're actually really talking about this since the shooting last week.
Yeah,
so.
Because obviously you don't want to fucking...
We don't need this.
Yeah.
No.
On one hand, if this person was genuinely trans and they did this terrible thing, I'm willing to accept that, and I'm also willing to accept that it's fake. Yeah. I'm willing to accept both possibilities.
Like, I'm still seeing people, when they're talking about trans people committing terrible crimes, they're still counting the one person who claimed they were non-binary, and then once they were, like, arrested with everything, was like, nah, I made that up. The person who carried out, like, the hate crime that they were clearly just trying to not have it labeled a hate crime.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I'm non-binary too.
It's
and then it's like, no, you were lying. But people are still claiming that person as being non-binary. They don't fucking care.
People on the far right are so quick to be like, oh, so I can just say that I'm a man now.
Yeah.
That's all I have to do. That's all I have to do, huh?
But as soon as someone does just say, then it's like, oh, I believe them 100%.
Yeah, and so obviously people who are dogpiling this whole situation and using it to embolden their hate against trans people, they are not all on the same page. And you can tell that some people wanted to go with, yeah, that's a man. And then, oh, I'm going to go with, yeah, that's a woman. And then it's like, wait, we're thinking a little too meta. And then everyone's on different pages.
Yeah.
It feels uncanny. I want to know when they put those pronouns on LinkedIn.
I think time will explain a good bit of this. It's still very fresh. It happened less than a week ago.
Yeah.
I think if we actually pay attention to it, bring ourselves to actually kind of follow it.
Yeah.
I think we'll learn things along the way.
Yeah.
There were a couple tweets I had actually brought up from this that I wanted to highlight. Anthony's reaction to it specifically. Mm-hmm. Reuters, first reporting says former Christian school student kills 3 children, 3 staff, in Nashville shooting. Anthony then retweets it saying, "Holy shit, unbelievably deceptive headline. This is your mainstream media, folks." Because the headline didn't say they were trans like it mattered. That's the only thing I can think that he would take issue with, because everything else is factual.
Yeah.
Did they kill three children and 3 staff? Yeah. Did they used to go to that school? Yeah.
So wait, it obviously the whole hypocritical part and them not giving a shit about being hypocrites.
Yeah.
It really is just a matter of like, when it serves us, then we want to point out and specify that somebody is trans, and then we'll believe that transgenderism is real.
They literally don't care about these people. They care that it was a Christian school because now they can play the Christian or actually oppressed angle that they've been playing for so long.
Yeah.
And there's never been any fucking credence to. Mm-hmm. That now they can act like this is like an example of that. And the other tweet, the original one, 3 days ago, Cenk Uygur urged trans Americans to, quote, get guns because he is worried that, quote, right-wing lunatics are going to attack them. Anthony retweets saying, imagine a right-wing host saying white people should arm themselves right before Dylan Roof shot up a black church. Do you think they'd still have a show, a Twitter account, a livelihood? They weren't that specific, but right-wing people say that shit all the goddamn time.
And also, you don't really have to say that, but that's sort of implied since, like, quote-unquote, freedom of slaves.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, we gotta make sure we got all the guns because now they're all free.
And notice, of course, Anthony still follows the same goddamn shit because he's projecting it. Do you think they still have a show, a Twitter account, a livelihood? These are all things that were taken from him because of his racism. That now he's trying to say... It's about me. It's about me. Everyone should face the same fate I did.
What is that? Schrodinger's cat?
Yeah.
We don't know. He's alive and dead at the same time. I don't know. It's so fucked up.
He's still going on about Fetterman. I forgot. It's been a minute since we've been playing to the
Jesus.
clip. Yeah, he's talking about Fetterman not being there because he's been going for treatment, so he doesn't know he's there, so yeah.
Yeah.
He could be dead. We've gotten no proof that this guy has taken a breath in months.
Anthony, even if he was alive, is he really? It's like Terry
I
Schiavo
know, that's another thing.
White pill author just referred to a sitting senator who deals with depression as basically being Terry Schiavo. So we should be giving this guy any fucking attention at all.
So, how old is that senator?
He's young.
So what the fuck are they on about?
He went away for treatment, and we haven't seen him because Republicans are always there in the public.
Oh, they're never not there.
They never take time away.
They're never fucking 80 million years old either.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't notice that until just now, that there's a whole level of ableism from this guy that is just, why should I be surprised? Of course he's a guest on a shitty show.
Because they just don't want to have a special election.
I sent money to him because I wanted him in the Senate. I
You
said this
did.
on some other show. My hope is that, like JFK, he's giving a Senate speech and his head just explodes
Without
on the
any
Senate
shot.
floor.
And this is a white pill author? Your hope is that a senator gets assassinated.
But then Anthony says, oh, not with a gun or anything, that his head just spontaneously explodes. So that's the hope, that people's heads will just explode.
Literally, that is... Put that in the Amazon review fucking, and as a pull quote, just saying, by the way, in an interview, he also said that he hopes that a senator's head explodes like JFK's. That's the hope you're reading for.
I know Fetterman winning was kind of a surprise. Like, it was kind of unlikely. But Anthony's saying, oh, they don't want to have another special election because then I guess a Republican might win. why don't you think a Democrat might not just win again?
Yeah. What state is this?
I think it was Pennsylvania. He's 53.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's younger than a fair amount of people, but that also just kind of seems to be a kind of median age for senators these days, because there have been a lot of young progressives kind of taking over, and also a lot of right-wingers, a lot of young right-wingers taking over. So yeah, maybe someone should put that in an Amazon quote. That is a very good point.
It just explodes on its own, like spontaneous combustion.
Yes,
There's
like-
oil rags in his head. Yeah.
So now they're just sitting around smiling, laughing about, a senator dying, but,
Like, he specifically said JFK.
the left are brutal, violent. Anyway.
Yeah, it is. I've compared the gaslighting from the right to just the cycle of abuse in a personal relationship. And it really is like the right will push the left more and more and more, poke, 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 poke. I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, until that person is just like, it blows up because of the little droplets of abuse that have been happening. And then it's like, they're violent. Oh my God, I need to get you committed. You're insane.
Are you not amused that he's the senator?
I am very amused. I find all this amusing, but at some point I have to look at things like my retirement portfolio and my bank account and my taxes and all that stuff. And that's when the reality sinks in that, wow, those 3.5 years of Trump before COVID were pretty lucrative for a lot of people in this country.
COVID was pretty lucrative for a lot of billionaires.
Yeah, was it lucrative for you?
Yeah, how was it lucrative for you?
I think it's very funny that Anthony is such a broken fucking record, that going back to the XM days, the things he mainly takes issue with is money and taxes.
Yeah.
When it's like, we've gone over his issue with taxes, but it's like, that is seriously the, like, honestly, I'll say this, if you were so fucking worried about all of that, why are you running a probably expensive-ass website and streaming network?
Yeah,
like I don't know
if you be avoiding spending money?
I would think so. Like, how many, like, you bought so many fucking expensive-ass cars back in the day and shit ton of fucking guns, like, you're not frugal, is the thing. But
they want more money to retire with. They want to be able to retire and buy 8 houses and 10 boats and eat the best food every night until they die. That's what they want. They don't want to live within their means. They want to be able to live way beyond their means so they can die with millions of dollars in their bank account.
And this is the issue with Anthony, though. What the fuck else are you gonna buy, though?
That's the issue with any billionaire.
I don't
know if he's a billionaire, but he is.
No, God, no.
He's got money.
I doubt he's even a millionaire. I don't believe Opie.
He's got all of his shit wrapped up in investments, I bet.
I can't believe Anthony. I mean, I can't believe Opie 100% here, but Opie did say recently that Anthony cannot be making money with Compound Media, like he can't be turning a profit. I would be surprised if he was turning much of a profit. Like, if Netflix isn't turning a profit, if YouTube has problems turning a profit.
His net worth, according to Celebrity Net Worth, is $5 million.
And that's net worth.
Net worth. Another one says $8 million.
That could easily be the worth of the network too.
Well, yeah, that's included. Net worth includes the network, his assets, all that stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of, like, that's why it's kind of not like 100% reliable, because a lot of people will argue their net worth. Like Alex Jones, when he was on trial, was arguing, is like, well, all these things cost money, and I don't get all of that. And it's like, he has so many people.
But if we liquidated all of it, then he'd get a good bit of money. Yeah,
like, how many fucking people does he employ and have on staff? And he has shows all day. Like, it's an all day running network. Yeah. This can't be cheap, dude. And how much advertising are you really doing? How much new people are you able to bring in?
Yeah, does he make people pay to be on the show?
I don't know. Like,
we'll be talking about your book, so that means you got to pay me $100,000.
Yeah, it doesn't seem profitable.
And even for people that would consider themselves impoverished, I think there was something there that Trump was giving. The "what have you got to lose" speech he gave to lower income blacks, when he goes, the Democrats have been screwing you guys for decades. Vote for me. What have you got to lose?
I would love to see what statistics Anthony has been looking at that shows that black people and impoverished people were benefiting under the Trump presidency financially.
Yeah.
Like, I know you just don't care, so you could just make shit up and say what you want. But yeah, he's now literally trying to make an argument that, I mean, I've seen people say this again. People like Alex Jones were like, no basis. It's all bias and bullshit. Try to make it sound like Trump did so fucking great for the economy because he did great for the super fucking wealthy.
Yeah.
How do you think that relates to middle and lower class people? Like, a majority of your audience.
They didn't lose anything because they didn't have anything to lose.
It's like, are your viewers seriously sitting there like, they benefited so fucking much that they agree? Like, I don't see that being possible.
Yeah.
And it was such a funny Trump thing to say, but it made a hell of a lot of sense. And, you know, that's kind of what I think about, is that there's so many morons that will keep voting in the Bidens and Harris and Fettermans that I really find it hard to find a light at the end of the tunnel here, you know?
I can't see a light of an end of a tunnel when there's a two-party system in America. How are you acting like Republicans and super racist right-wingers aren't elected all the time?
Yeah, like I said, when you're stuck in a system that is extremely limited and limiting in terms of the government being two-party system, has been for fucking ever. What, they flipped once? They flipped names just to gaslight everybody. Okay, cool. That's like fucking apartment complexes changing names and being like, hey, it's new. It's not.
Yeah.
And to him, he senses it too, where it's just like, there's nothing we can do to change anything.
Unless that party just didn't exist. Unless a lot of heads just randomly exploded.
Hey, he said it. I imagine he would like to see, quote unquote, the world burn. And by the world
burn, at least
burn,
one half of it.
Yeah, exactly. The super powerful are just manipulating all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, and you know, comes back to capitalism again. The super powerful are powerful because of capitalism.
Yeah.
And without capitalism, guess what? We're all on a lot more of an even playing field.
Yeah, like, I've said this before, like you mentioned earlier, too. Like, do they seriously think Joe Biden is doing a hell of a lot for us? Like, if we all just understood that, like, Obama didn't do shit, Biden isn't doing shit, we don't...
They're all still war criminals, they're all trash.
Yeah, like, I guess just because you live in New York, where there's probably a fair bit more liberals than there are other place like progressives on paper, that they're willing to, like, literally, like, idol worship politicians and, you know, say they're part of the Kamala K-hive and all that bullshit.
God, yeah.
That probably does get really annoying, but to then act like that's all Democrats, like, because when we see MAGA, and, like, it seems like, to us anyway, the perception is that a lot of y'all worship that fucking dude.
Yeah, and
it must seem to you that a lot of people worship Biden and shit like that. If we understood that a majority of people probably don't, and do realize that we are just being turned against each other, and that the two-party system is just kind of bullshit.
Well, yeah, 100%. The humanitarian, hopeful person in me feels very much that without a system of capitalism, we would not have as many extremists.
For sure.
Because if all of our needs were all met, for one, we wouldn't feel as disenfranchised.
Yeah.
Two, it wouldn't be so hard to fight against people who are coming for us.
Right.
Three, community would be a lot stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like we're fighting against other people for our paychecks. It's not like we're fighting for money. Because we're all fighting to survive. Even the super rich people are under this assumption that they're fighting to survive.
Yeah.
Because what if they lost all their money? Oh my God, I have to maintain all of my money and then some, and then some.
Yeah.
Because if I lose that, then I might lose this. And then if I lose that, then I'll be a poor person. And then what?
Yeah, I couldn't possibly.
Yeah. And even people like us who are not super rich and we're living within our means, we still have that fear in us because we see people who are homeless, who are doing way worse than us. And we're sitting here like, we got to avoid that. We got to make sure that we, blah, blah, blah. We got to avoid that because these tier systems of class are in place to make us afraid of falling in class, but also always striving to be higher class. Yeah. Pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and everything. Even us being aware of it doesn't mean that we don't have it in us to still think, oh, I wish I had more money.
Oh, for sure.
Like if we had more money, we could do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And then I think of how insidious it's been for like my own mental health of just like growing up poor and then now being able to live within my means. And when I do have a little bit more than my means, I'm like, I have to save that. I have to hoard that.
Yeah.
Just in case. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially if they have been poor before. Because, like I said, within this system of capitalism, our main focus is survival. And how do we survive? We survive with money. Like, food is already out there. We don't have to grow the food. We don't even have to know where the food is. We know where the food is, and the food's already all out there plentiful at a grocery store. But how do we get it?
Yeah.
Should we have to pay for it? That's the hoop we have to jump through? Okay, that's how we survive then.
Yeah.
Within this system. Basically, whatever you can do, no matter what you can and can't do, you'll still be provided for. If everyone felt that, and it was true, and we could all feel security in that, so many problems would be solved.
You reminded me when you mentioned tribes that there was a tweet, and I didn't highlight it, but I wanted to remember to bring it up here because it's interesting. There was a video going around of someone in an Asian country, I forget which. I wish I would have taken a screenshot, but I don't feel like looking it up. Someone was carrying these things, and they dropped their things, and then, like, people stopped what they were doing, and they came over and helped them up or something like that. And the original person was just like, wow, like, one of those, like, faith in humanity restored type things. And Anthony was just saying, like, yeah, you see that in Asian countries because it's all one tribe. And they all take care of their own. And you don't see that in other countries because other tribes infiltrated. He's basically advocating for an ethno-state. Well, by saying just because, like, Asian countries are majorly all Asian, that's why you see people helping each other. But in other countries, there's so many more races that they're all fighting against each other. Basically saying, if we were all white, you wouldn't have this problem.
Well, that's not true, though.
No, it's not. we broke this down before, too.
In Asian countries, there are plenty of other people from other Asian countries, or are you just holding them all up as the same thing?
Yeah, like there isn't problems between Japanese and Chinese people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and there are plenty of Japanese people who live in China and vice versa. Like, and so I thought it was sort of going a different way. I thought it was going for more like, depending on the Asian country, it's like there are some Asian countries who don't have a two-party system.
Oh.
There are some Asian countries who live under a dictatorship. There are some Asian countries who live under more of a communistic kind of ideology that aren't necessarily dictatorships. But once you remove that infighting of, oh, I'm on the left, I'm on the right, then it removes certain obstacles. But obviously, if there's a dictatorship, then there are other obstacles involved.
Well, first of all, I don't think if you're looking to Washington, you're going to be white pill. I think Washington is only a source of negativity and
where should I look? Hollywood, Madison Avenue, the mainstream media. That's all fucking me too. That's blackpilling the shit out of me.
You're not going to get an argument from me at all about any of those things. But my point is, I think, and Compound Media is an example of this, you couldn't have had this network 15 or 20 years ago. There is an enormous emerging counterculture, to use a bad term, that is demonstrating and validating people's suspicions of this structure where it starts with the universities and it goes to the media centers in Hollywood.
Okay, so it's just anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Like, I think
the
it's
bad guys.
Yeah. So Michael is suggesting that the rise of something like compound media is proof that there is hope. For him, I guess. To call what Anthony is doing counterculture, I guess just because...
That's like Republicans deciding that, no, we're actually more democratic than anything.
Yeah.
You know?
I do remember now why I wanted to bring this clip in full. It gets so fucking stupid.
And metastasizes in Washington.
Yeah.
So I think for years, the Republican Party, and still to this day with many of these boomers, no offense, it's like, okay, I'm going to beat Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi's the symptom. You know, by the if you're dealing with her, like it's already a wrap. That's the fourth quarter. There is an increasing understanding that Hollywood, like when you and I were kids, if you had said to someone with a straight face that Disney is going to be the symbol of malevolence in America, you'd be looked at as crazy, right? But now that's not a controversial perspective. There's an increasing understanding that corporate America has an agenda, and that agenda is not exactly a positive one.
Right.
And that, to me, is a major step forward when you already have anyone recognizing that what we're presented as the elites and the establishment are often depraved.
So it's interesting to try to figure out what is depraved that Disney is fighting for when really all they've specifically said outright is diversity.
Yeah.
I guess that's enough. A lot is not being said here, but if you know context, you can piece it together.
Yeah.
When he says Disney is the voice of benevolence, I don't think anyone is saying that.
No.
That's just a perception when you see them fighting for people that don't look or act like you, I guess. That's the only thing I could figure there.
Yeah.
That's the only way you would see it as trying to act benevolent, is if you don't agree with what they're doing and what are they really doing at the end of the day.
Like
if you had issue with them being a monopoly, like there's issues you can take up with Disney. Like we've said this in our own private, like they're not above criticism.
No.
But it's these super little things that you take problem with, that you take issue with, is the problem.
What's really interesting is that Disney has existed since the late 1800s, like technically, like the first...
Probably.
And you don't really see many other companies that have existed that long.
Right.
And I think the fact that they are so adamantly leaning toward diversity is both scary and also gives me a little bit of hope, because what kind of society would you, if we're still going to have to live under capitalism, what kind of society would you like to live under? One that exploits everyone equally and provides that exploitation to everyone equally, or one that is doing all the saying the quiet parts loud and really pitting each other against each other to nickel and dime everybody, and to try as best as they can to remove rights and supposed privileges from marginalized groups.
Yeah.
Like, what if the next step is a monopoly that seems a lot more benevolent than the US government?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, read any fucking cyberpunk book, and you'll see that there are a lot of insidious ways that conglomerations and corporations become stand-ins for the government.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the government is just so fucked that the corporation is like, we know business.
Yeah.
We can do this better, honey.
Yeah. No, I get that. And especially the part about, you know, over the course of the years, a lot of things do change, and things that you couldn't imagine are there right in full view. But the youth of America, they're supposed to be the ones that are rebellious and looking at the system and fighting it. yeah, compound media couldn't have existed, and I'm glad I'm part of this fight at my advanced age. People, I'm technically, yes, a boomer. I shouldn't be one of the people that are going, hey, fuck this, fuck the way things are going, fuck this, the shit we got going on in Washington and Madison Avenue and Hollywood and the media. Why is that me and not some people that are in school and younger people that have the time and energy?
So here is the main reason why I wanted to bring this clip.
Yeah.
Anthony is arguing that at his advanced age, a boomer, why is he fighting what's going on in society? You mean the progress for minorities? Why are you acting like you are counterculture?
Yeah.
Like, why are you acting like you're anything but a regressive dickhead?
Yeah.
And that's not what society on the right and everything have been, and older people have been doing for centuries. Why do you think you're any different? Like, you're doing the same fucking shit that anti-integration people were doing, what people who are fighting against same-sex marriage. You're doing the same shit.
It's just so... It brings me back to pathetic.
Yeah.
It is just so pathetic to push back against progress.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck do you want us as a human civilization to be like?
Yeah.
You don't want us to progress? Like, what do conservatives want any progress?
No.
Like, what's the fucking point of conservatives?
There's another tweet, which I had no reason to bring up except for kinda now. New York Post shared this article. Nashville police under fire for gun-filled family Christmas photo.
Oh, I saw that picture, yeah.
You did? Anthony tweets it. A traditional American family. Father, mother, children safely and legally exercising their God-given constitutional rights. Problem? He sounds like such a fucking fuddy-duddy stick in the mud.
Yeah.
You're so fucking delusional.
You're living the fucking stereotype.
Yeah, you've become over time more and more of a stereotype. Listening to Anthony in 2008, I keep bringing this back, is so depressing for a lot of reasons, mainly because you hear him talking about being pro-choice, talking about religious people as being extremists and everything, and you know where he ends up.
Yeah.
And it's like, you weren't always like this.
What scared you so much?
That's what I'm really trying to figure out.
So conservatives are just conserving the energy that they all have about their fears.
Their power, their status symbol. Yeah, in
like,
society.
TERFs, they're all just scared.
Right.
And it's so pathetic that TERFs project all of their fear onto other people instead of owning their fucking fear like adults.
Yeah.
Like, instead of recognizing the fact that anybody could be abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And taking into consideration all of the different things that are going on within different contexts and everything, and like just thinking critically about it. No, they would rather pin their fear on a group of people and be like, no, you're the reason why the world's bad. You're the reason. It's not because I have unacknowledged fears because of possible things that have happened in my past. No. It's just because you exist. And you know what? If you didn't exist, I wouldn't be afraid. But you would.
I'm going to say this.
Fear's normal.
O&A De-Talks is if the witch trials of J.K. Rowling wasn't absolute dog shit. What the podcast or whatever, that miniseries, was advertised as trying to get to the bottom of J.K. Rowling's transphobia and everything. And the whole thing was to try to paint her out as a good guy. They got notable trans people in it to try to kind of... They got counterpoints. They got contrapoints,
yeah.
Which, I mean, if you ask anybody, probably not the best choice.
Yeah.
To try to be like the counterpoint in the argument and everything. And at the end of the day, the ending question was just like, do you think you can validate your fears on trans people? Like, do you think you could like back it up or whatever? And she just goes like, yes. And it's like, okay, we're not going to ask for the proof, but you think there's validity to it, so that's good enough for us. Why don't you ask about how she was so outspoken specifically against people like Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh specifically, she would retweet shit on him for being anti-gay, anti-all this, and now all of a sudden acting like he's the strongest fucking warrior in this trans fight. Like, do you not have any self-awareness? Do you just not remember? Like, it's that Lord of the Rings meme.
Yeah.
The, I would never in a million... It's the TERF saying, I never in a million years would have seen myself fighting against a Nazi. And it's like, yeah, you did.
And fighting alongside a Nazi, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
This is way more obvious, and you saw this shit coming.
Sure. Supposed to is a propaganda term. It doesn't mean anything, right? So we're sold a bill of goods that, young people are supposed to be fighting the system, and men and women are supposed to be equally intelligent. You know, but then we live in reality.
I didn't catch that part either. That was a genuine reaction. So are we acting like young people aren't fighting against the system? Is that what he's implying there?
Did you see at least one elementary school
had a walkout?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You're seeing this a lot.
Yeah.
How are you acting? He said supposed to is a construct of how young people are supposed to be fighting a system. What do you fucking think is happening?
Yeah.
Are you just ignoring it, or are you like, are you willingly ignoring it?
They're not fighting the things that I want them to be fighting, so I don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, so it's either wrong or just not happening at all.
Well, I mean, yeah, think about the youngsters that are definitely out there who are still fighting against trans liberation and black liberation and all this stuff. Like, they definitely exist.
Yeah.
Of just being like, no, fuck that. No, I'm not for that. Like, they're fighting it in their own way, and it's just like, I choose not to acknowledge that those people exist, even though obviously I do acknowledge they exist.
Like, you remember when Anthony was talking about how basically jealous he was of Nick Fuentes? Because he's so young and virile, and he's fighting like the way I
so
wish.
much cum.
He's fighting
so much sperm.
He never jerks off. I could tell. Like, he's fighting the way I wish I could be fighting, and he's like. So I guess that's the only, like, that is what he wants. He wants anti-Semitic young people, I guess, because anything else is not fighting a system. Fighting the system you perceive as being there. Mm-hmm. This Jewish-led...
If you're not fighting the way he wants, then you are the system.
And point being, something else that young people are, not just supposed to be, but in fact are stupid.
Okay.
Have you noticed that there has been a rise of really shit-talking the new generations?
Oh, of course.
And we all see why.
Yeah, because they're actually informed.
They're informed, and even if they're not informed in the ways that we would want them to be, they have a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah.
They're coming in like sort of just like, okay, this is the world that I'm coming into. I haven't invested myself one way or another anywhere. And that's super fucking scary to conservatives, because if you want people to keep fucking having kids and you don't want abortions to happen, guess what? You're going to have more progress in the future.
Yeah.
When you have kids, the society is progressing through that generation.
I can't see a TikTok ban happening, but if it's around for another generation, can you imagine the generation that is born with TikTok already existing? Because we don't have that yet.
Right, yeah.
Like, that tuned in, to have such experience open to you at that young of an age. And I will say this. I watched a clip of Anthony and Gavin talking. And Anthony claims he read the entire bill. I don't know what they're calling it. I forget its name.
Yeah.
People are referring to it as a TikTok ban.
Yeah.
But it's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And Gavin was saying, you know, I don't read up on anything. I was just raw. Fuck TikTok. I want it gone.
That's so many people.
It's very funny that Gavin would just openly admit to being so incredibly ignorant and just willing to not read into the bill and just scream.
Reading is for cucks.
Fuck TikTok, I guess. But Anthony did take time to actually read the bill, and he's over there saying this would affect every fucking thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? I'm glad someone on the right is fucking doing it.
Yeah.
And he's saying, you know,
Well, I mean, there are a lot of things, I'm not going to say a lot. There are things that are very common things that the right and left should be fighting against.
Oh, for sure. This is, especially after, I'll totally admit, I don't have the fucking time to read this goddamn shit.
Yeah.
Apparently Anthony has nothing going on, so he did, so good for him.
Yeah.
He was saying Tucker Carlson has a lot of young, smart people on his crew. Maybe if someone brings it up to him, he'll fucking talk about it. Ultimately, no one benefits. No one, at least in Anthony's field, benefits from this thing passing.
Yeah, no.
And he's talking about the government would have access to every fucking thing. And to actually, bring it to Gavin's attention and make Gavin understand, oh, this isn't good.
Yeah.
Is more of this shit, please?
It's...
it was very surreal for me.
Yeah.
To watch a clip and sitting there thinking, thank fucking God Anthony is saying this, for one.
Yeah.
To Gavin and to his audience that might actually give a shit and pay attention. Because not a lot of people on the left are talking enough about it either.
Yeah.
Everyone is just saying, we can't get rid of TikTok. It's well, I honestly don't care about TikTok nearly as much as...
If it were as simple as, oh, hey, TikTok's just going to be gone. Versus, hey, TikTok's gone, but also this sweeping change is going to happen that gives the government way too much access and limits a lot of fucking things. I'd much rather it just be as simple as TikTok being gone.
It was saying, Anthony was talking about, and I hate we're giving him so much credit right now, but, credit where credit's due.
Well, okay, I want to point out, keep doggy or whatever you're about to say.
Yeah.
I want to point out, people who suddenly happen to go far right have just as much potential to suddenly be like, yeah, actually, you know what? Fuck that.
That is true.
I'm going to at least be a little bit more moderate now.
Yeah. If Anthony had anybody reasonable in his life that could drag him back to at least a center ground, I'll fucking take that at this point. Things might be different. And he was reading over the definition of what people are when it's referred to people in the bill, what that means. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, people are presenting it as being against foreign adversaries. And it mentions China, Russia, some Middle Eastern countries. But essentially, at the end of the day, it's a American citizen surveillance bill. Mm-hmm.
Because they see the rise of anti-government.
Yeah.
They see a lot of people... Because one great thing about the TikTok specifically, the TikTok algorithm, it's real good at giving me more communist information. It's real good at informing me about the injustices in America. Yeah. It's real good at giving my For You page exactly what I need to be like, it's depressing. Yeah. But it is extremely informative.
I was trying to find sounds and trends that aren't on my For You page to try to take advantage of on my own. Yeah. So I'll use TikTok not logged in. Yeah. And to just see how that unmolded ball of clay, what it really is before you make it into your own thing, it's 80% videos in other languages, not even American videos, because I imagine it's used way more in other countries. And sometimes mildly stimulating, interesting thing, satisfying thing. ASMR is pretty big.
Look at this ASMR or this fucking weird science experiment.
Yeah,
it's 8 million views.
And now I don't see any of that. Yeah, it's been completely all weeded out.
TikTok is a really great. Some people would claim that TikTok is merely an echo chamber, which I get people saying that. But I feel like TikTok is a great example of human potential.
True.
Because we are all on the same app. And we all have the potential to become more aware of other... Because if you type in, India as a hashtag, and you start liking some of those, then you'll be more aware of things going on in India.
It will... Yeah, it'll start being more prevalent on your feed.
Yeah, if you type in something like... shoes, you'll learn way more about shoes. Yeah. If you do something as simple as thinking about looking into something else, it's better than Google when it comes to raw information. Because throughout high school and middle school, everyone's screaming, primary resources, primary sources, you want to hear it from the dog's mouth and everything. You do, because...
This is what it is.
TikTok has plenty of people who are just regurgitating things that they've heard.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you want to see, like, the moment after it happens, the reaction to a totalitarian dictatorship falling, like, you can go to TikTok and see some footage.
You're not going to see that on the news.
You're not going to see it. The fucking, I've learned way more about, bills that are being presented in my state than anything. And I will admit, I don't watch the news, but I'm on Twitter.
Yeah.
Which advertises the news to me pretty fucking frequently. And I don't hear shit about my own state. I don't hear about
never.
the second fucking spill in Ohio. Why is the government, are these bills proponents, so adamant about this bill?
Mm-hmm.
We all fucking know why.
Yeah.
The people on the right should know why. The people on the left should know why.
And I've said this before about TikTok specifically. People who shit talk TikTok and think it's just one way don't understand how the algorithm works.
The algorithm is flawed.
Right.
But
if someone like Anthony or Gavin were to use TikTok, and they would see everything they want to see, and they would understand how it's beneficial to other people.
They would understand. TikTok allows you to understand yourself a lot, way more than you would expect.
Yeah. And now the government would say, oh, well, that's scary.
We don't want people to reflect on their government, their state, their community. We don't want that community.
They take the learning about yourself as, oh, this is an example of the surveillance. And it's like, no, an algorithm is not surveillance.
Yeah.
It learns, but it doesn't collect data like you think. And even then, and this is the danger, actually, because people were looking at saying, like, you know, TikTok doesn't do it nearly as bad as, like, Facebook or Google. Mm. And the government's like, no, we know. It's going to affect all that, too.
Yeah.
It's not just this. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
So is that better or worse that it's not just, shit? And it's very weird to hear Anthony all of a sudden shit talking about data collecting from Ring. Because you all the time hear people talk about, like, you know, because mainly, like, oh, it can help, like, for safety and prevention, you know, keep dangerous people of a certain shade away from my house. And now all of a sudden Anthony is like, well, now they can learn when you leave your house, when you come back, how long you're gone. It's like, yeah, right?
They don't want the government. They're always screaming about government overreach.
Yeah.
Do y'all really want to be in on that? Do y'all really want to be victim to that?
And yeah, this goes beyond the hypocrisy of, you know, I don't want big government unless it affects people I don't like. Yeah. This directly would affect you and everyone else.
And it's so fucked up and, like, very ironic that the bill is pointing at places like China, claiming that China is using the app for surveillance while also baking in the right for the government to surveil us.
Yeah.
Like, do you really think we're that stupid?
I understand why you want the internet to be a certain way, because we all learned very quickly what this was.
Yeah.
If you don't want us to, you could make it to where we couldn't. That's obviously what you would like to do.
Yeah.
You would like us to not be as informed, not as tuned in.
There's been community before the internet.
Of course.
So, like, I'm not totally hopeless in terms of them trying to take these tools away from us, because progress is going to happen.
And people, I think, will always find a way around shit anyway. Honestly.
Yeah, we've already built some communities. You know, people, with the pandemic, we've found new ways through the internet to build communities. But we already have the communities now. We have people's phone numbers. We have those communities already. And the progress that we're racing toward, it can only be, like, delayed.
Yeah. And it's inevitable.
The fall of the American government as we know it, whether it be silently or violently, is gonna fall.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I'm not endorsing anything. We are not endorsing anything. That is just what I see coming.
That's not us,
Yeah.
making shit up.
Yeah.
Y'all have proved that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do fucking better if you don't want that shit to happen.
Exactly. You're consistently refusing
Yeah.
basic needs for people and removing even more.
Yeah.
So, like, what the fuck do you want from people other than a revolution? Progress is inevitable.
Yeah.
Progress can be scary, though.
True.
And there's plenty. I am certain that in the future, you and I are going to see some progress happening, and we're going to be like, "Oh fuck, I don't know enough about this."
And hopefully
feels
there will be
scary.
ways to find out about it.
Yeah,
and learn.
I have faith in us that we will we will do our fucking best to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to progress and be like, "Nope, yep, I get it."
Yeah.
Progress.
I don't remember if there's a lot worth left. There's only a minute and a half left in this.
And that's always going to be the case. Everyone listening to this, and me and you, Ant, and Garrett and Drew, we were all dumb when we were younger. At the very least, you have very little life experience. You know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, our life experiences haven't made us, paranoid, delusional messes. No.
Yeah, and projecting everything onto the world.
No, we're definitely all better off now than we were kids, or if we were allowed or able to have a childhood at all. Mm-hmm. I can't speak for either of these people. I know one person wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know about Michael here.
Mm-hmm.
And you only learn things as you get older. So I agree with you that like they're not fighting the system and they're coopted into the system. But I'm not a Democrat, lowercase d, because I don't think it's a numbers game. I think if you have like a huge chunk of people who are zombie, like a zombie movie, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have a small group of people who are human, and you're going to have a lot of zombies out there. But
Jesus.
What, you don't like these
Literal
the very
dehumanization.
Sudden, the neck-breaking yeah.
The total high school argument of like,
It's like everyone's like zombies.
Sheeple.
Sheeple.
This Michael Malice, he's full of surprises. I gotta say, he's a never-ending treasure trove of ridiculous fascism and bigotry.
Once you realize, all right, I'm facing zombies and I'm not going to try to persuade them to my point of view, the path forward becomes a lot clearer.
No, that is a great analogy.
There's no arguing with these people. You try arguing with Karen, you think you're going to get any kind of coherent discussion from her?
No.
Right.
Never.
So now you understand, okay, now that I'm up against Karen, I need to create workarounds to make sure that she can't impose her will on me. And a good example of this is they did everything that they could to cancel Rogan.
Yep.
They got O'Reilly. They got him. They vanished him. He had the #1 show on cable.
Yeah.
And the guy's not a hero, to put it mildly. But they tried to do the racism thing on Joe. They tried to pretend that he just went to the veterinarian and stole a tube of horse paste and was just hugging it like an asshole. And he's kicking stronger than ever.
Yep.
And in fact, as you just said, he opened up his own comedy club. So being white pill doesn't mean nothing bad happens, or that that there's not enormous victories for the enemy class. It just means you can't deny that there are certain aspects where the situation is hopeful, and to fight for those aspects with everything you've got.
that guy serves as the loot player that goes to war with everybody.
Yeah.
That's like, everything is fine, the enemies will win, the enemies will lose, and then what'll happen next is we'll get to fuck a bunch of women, and they'll be virgins, it'll be great, everyone keep your hopes up.
All the not being saids, all the implications, well, we can't talk to these people, but there's ways around it. There's go-arounds, like, well, what is that? What is it? What do you suggest?
They all know what they're suggesting.
And your example is Joe Rogan wasn't cancelable? Was that really the win you think it is?
Yeah.
Like, if your whole existence here is tell other bigoted right-wing people about the small victories to keep them hopeful, like, that's not, I guess, the worst, but yeah, like you said, I don't really want them to have hope either.
Yeah, and it feels like as loud and as vicious as they're becoming, it seems to be a symptom of a group losing hope.
They are on the ropes.
Yeah.
I will say that. The right wing and the anti-trans movement or everything, it's a bunch of scared people who are losing power, losing any sort of momentum.
They're losing the power and the definitions that uphold patriarchy and white supremacy.
And it's like, at the end of the day, it does just come down to money. We would have had people like Tucker Carlson off the fucking air a long-ass time ago if he didn't have such ridiculously wealthy backers and everything. Which is, again, you don't want to talk about hypocrisy because it doesn't fucking matter, but they'll scream about George Soros' power over the Congress all fucking day.
Yeah.
When you could talk about, like, the Koch brothers or somebody who's funneling millions and millions into, like, the Daily Wire and people like Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson. It's like, it all comes down to money having power.
Yeah.
Why can't we just agree that that's bad?
Why can't we just be... Because the people on the far right typically are more privileged. And they have money.
I don't want people buying votes unless it's my vote.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then just fucking admit that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I would have so much more respect for these motherfuckers if they would just be fucking honest about shit.
Yeah.
Don't fucking play this, we're better because we're, you know, we're so virtuous.
It must be so exhausting.
To know you're fucking lying? Like, you
All
can't
the
be this
time.
delusional, right?
Like, instead of let's go Brandon, just say fuck Biden. Just say it.
Yeah, how hard would that be?
Be big kids. You can say fuck.
We're all adults here.
We're all
except
adults
for the
here.
People who aren't adults here.
We all say fuck Biden. Like,
yeah, again, if you'd understand that there are people on the left who would agree with that sentiment, but for different reasons,
yeah.
maybe we could move towards progress a little.
The government wants us divided, and the far right benefits from us being divided.
So they're not willing to fight it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, that covers the show. I didn't think we'd have 2.5 hours on that video and that video alone, that 10-minute video, but hey.
Yeah.
The show's full of surprises, and apparently so is Michael Malice. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, someone put a review on the book where he's talking about that senator should get JFK'd.
Good lord, yeah. Talk about how he wants liberals' heads to explode, and how he compared John Fetterman to Terry Schiavo, like a fucking, like an edgelord.
Like a 10-year-old.
What a fucking pull. I want to refer to him as someone who is like... Terry Schiavo's a cultural reference from like 2007, my guy.
Yeah, it's like, do you equate having depression to also not having brain function?
Yeah. Might as well be the same thing.
Just because y'all ignore the depression in your community doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah. You're willing to write off people who, you know, take their own lives out of like, because of depression, stuff like that. It's like, oh, you know, they weren't strong enough.
Yeah, excuse me?
Well, if there's a bright side to any of this, episode 19 is already set to go for whenever we record that one. And we'll be talking about a better time. A slightly better time in 2008. But until next time, I guess Neb and I will leave you with this?
I'm like, I don't belong in this room because everyone here is like this. I'm not a comic at all.